The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi!
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
And in this Back the Blue segment, it comes from beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee, where a police officer ran into a burning apartment and saved a mother and her 2 children. The officer was first to arrive on the scene before the fire department got there, and he witnessed flames at the front door. When neighbors told him that people were still inside, Officer Rogers jumped into action. He went inside the smoke-filled apartment. He grabbed a child. A woman carrying another child followed him out safely. Later, Rogers used a fire extinguisher to quell some of the flames on the exterior of the door. Thankfully, he helped save 2 children and their mother, all with no injuries. Needless to say, the police department there in Chattanooga released the body cam footage showing this dramatic action, showing his unwavering heroism running into the flames. And they are indeed calling Mr. Rogers, Officer Rogers, a hero. And we, of course, always love honoring our men and women in blue. Well, there's going to be a lot of men and women in blue protecting the participants in this year's Israel Day Parade. It's a huge event. I remember I spoke at one of the events after the Israel Day Parade one year, because they do the parade and then they do a huge event in Central Park. And I was one of the speakers one year there at that event, and it's packed. I mean, there are so many folks from all over the world who come in, and apparently this year there's going to be more members of the Israeli Knesset than ever before coming out to show their support, because anti-Semitism is sadly on the rise, and in places like New York. And then you got the crazy mayor who says, my views are clear. I'm not even going to march in the parade. Usually politicians, and you guys all know this, they can't wait to march in a parade. Sometimes you don't see them all year round, but there's a parade? I suddenly love the Dominican, Puerto Rican, Haitian, African, French community. It's my favorite community of all. I'm going to be there, I swear. I mean, there's some that you have to peel away from not being at the parades, because it's a great chance to show your support for this huge swath of population. And New York has the biggest Jewish population outside of Israel, New York City. You are the mayor of the biggest population outside of Israel in the United States, and you can't even show up. And it's not because he has another function. It's not because, his family member is getting married or something that was planned a year ago, and it's right below the Eiffel Tower and he's the best man. That ain't the case. He doesn't want to go because it's against his views. And he's already said it tonight, crystal clear. My views are abundantly clear. Al and Yonkers are going to get back to you in one moment, so stick with us, because here is Jessica Tisch. She is the NYPD commissioner. And as I said, she is the honorary grand marshal, one of the honorary grand marshals. How weird is that? Standing right next to Mamdani saying, I can't wait to go. And he's just like, I can't wait to not be there. I mean, this is it was weird. But here is Jessica Tisch, who is a big supporter of the Jewish population. But obviously she can't say anything because Zoran Mamdani's her boss. That's the reality. I'm sorry. I wouldn't be the commissioner under somebody like that. That's the bottom line. I have utter respect for her, and thank goodness the men and women in blue have her as the lead, because she does appreciate the men and women in blue big time, and the Jewish population big time. But here is Jessica Tisch talking about the massive amount of security that's going to have to take place at this parade because of the rise of anti-Semitism.
To be blunt, we are not messing around with security at this year's parade. The NYPD has one of the most robust municipal counterterrorism capabilities of any city in the world, and I am bringing all of that to bear for this year's parade. This Sunday, New Yorkers will see the most extensive security plan that the NYPD has ever put together for the Salute to Israel parade, including the largest number of officers ever assigned to that detail. Included in that security plan will be the most heavy weapons teams ever, robust camera coverage of the area, and comprehensive screening of everyone entering the parade route, including spectators, vendors, participants, and the press.
A lot of security, a lot of preparations, which is why everybody should come out that should be there for that parade to show their support and say they will not be afraid. And instead you have a mayor, not who's cowering, but who's defiantly saying, I have made my views clear about Israel. That's why I'm not going. That's disgusting. And it wasn't that long ago. It was just a few days ago. There was a big protest outside of Gracie Mansion where Zoran Mamdani, of course, that's his home. And there he is. He was in Gracie Mansion. Outside was this massive protest that took place. The group was called End Jew Hatred. And it was mostly Jewish residents, but it was really about just hatred of all kinds. End it. And there were some Muslims there. There were a number of very Muslims that were supportive of Jewish population. There were Catholic priests. But here's a little bit of the chants outside of Gracie Mansion.
Just 2.5 years ago, we couldn't even get 15 people on the street to fight for Jewish empowerment. Look at us now. And it's not just Jews, it's interfaith, it's Jews, it's non-Jews, it's Christians, it's Muslims, it's people of every background. Because this is bigger. This is bigger than all of us. This is bigger than...
And that was Brooke Goldstein, who's the organizer of it. Here's a little bit more about why she said this event right now was so important.
Brooke Goldstein, human rights attorney and founder of End Jew Hatred. So glad to have you. Thank you for coming in person today. First of all, we have civil rights. We went through this already with different segments of our society in America. Why is this happening now? What does the law say about this?
Well, Harris, first of all, I want to thank you so much for covering this issue. I'm very grateful to you. We are in the age of minority rights and civil rights. We respect black rights. We respect gay rights. So why is it that when it comes to Jewish students and Jewish civil rights, everything is politicized? I want to make the important point that this is not happening in a vacuum. For the last 20 years, our students at universities, colleges across the country have been poisoned, have been radicalized, and they've been waiting for this moment, which happened on October the 7th, which was an opportunity for them to press play. And what they've done is they've taken Jewish civil rights and they've politicized it, right? I hate Israel. Israel is the cause of all evil in the world. The Jews are evil. Therefore, we can beat up and discriminate against Jewish students on campus. We can block their entrance to facilities. We can create checkpoints. It's like a campus out of Nazi Germany. And this is justified and it's legitimized as resistance.
Look, we have religious freedom in this country, too. I mean, you talk about civil rights, but predating that is at the core of our values as a nation. This just makes no sense. Judaism, we're in like a spiritual warfare, we are in one.
Yeah, we are in one. That's my buddy Harris Faulkner there on Fox News. And Al, before we go back to you in Yonkers, I brought up right before the break that the moment I really noticed that Zoran Mamdani was a true ideologue, that he was a true believer, that he wasn't just saying wacky things to like appeal to some wacky base, that he really did believe these things. And remember, he also created the Democratic sort of Socialists of America chapter in college. Remember, he was like the head of it and formed it in his university. And then he had no problem signing on to their views. His mentor was Linda Sarsour, who's a known anti-Semite. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it wasn't rocket science, but I kept thinking, no, someone can't really be saying these things. They really can't. And then there was this moment, guys, that really made me say, oh, he is a true believer. I've interviewed, I can't tell you the thousands of people that I've interviewed. And I've interviewed some tough characters through the days. Worse people than Zoran Mamdani, all right? I mean, I've interviewed, some very bad folks, and I always listen to words. I always listen to when they kind of dodge and weave on the question and go, hey, let's go back there. Wait a minute. My question was this, and you use this phrase. Why did you mean that? That's kind of interesting language. You always listen to language, especially with politicians who try to be slick and have a nice little smile. And Zoran Mamdani was sort of the master of that, or at least maybe he didn't have hard enough interviewers. I love Errol Lewis. He's a great guy. But Errol needed to follow up with a question and say, excuse me, sir, you are running for mayor of New York. You didn't answer the question. Will you denounce Hamas? Will you denounce what the Palestinians did, what Hamas did on October 7th? You're not answering the question. Do you realize what globalized the Intifada? He danced around. Remember, he said, I'm not going to use that phrase anymore. But then the question is, do you still believe it? I didn't ask you if you're going to use it or not. I just asked you, do you mean it? So will you denounce it right here and there? And that question wasn't asked of him. But listen to this dance. When I heard this dance, I said, this guy's a true believer. And now tonight, I am doubly confirmed.
At least one of those meetings, you said that you would discourage the use of the slogan, globalize the Intifada. And I know you've been asked about this a million times. Let me just throw in my 2 cents. I was actually in Israel for the first time during the Second Intifada. It was a traumatic, horrible, violent time. You could see where storefronts had been blown out. You had to open your bags everywhere. There was a lot of tension. The streets were deserted, streets that were normally lively. We know, and it lasted for years, that thousands of people, both Palestinians and Israelis, died before they got some kind of a treaty to sort of dial back some of the violence. It was just a horrible, horrible time. And as you know, as you've heard, a lot of people are traumatized by that word. It brings back a lot of really, really bad memories. I was just a visitor, but there are people who have lived with much worse. Obviously, as part of your job as mayor, you would need to sort of dial back the temperature, bring people together. Where are we now in that conversation, and what else might you want to say about that particular phrase?
Errol, I've thought about this quite a lot, and for some New Yorkers, this phrase is one that refers to civil disobedience and protest, a call to end the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land. But I know that for many Jewish New Yorkers, it brings to mind images of the like that you were speaking of. I was sitting with a rabbi not too long ago who told me how the same phrase is heard very differently by her. And it's heard as a reference to bus bombings in Haifa, restaurant attacks in Jerusalem, and it engenders a fear in her and in others of the possibility of those very attacks coming home here in New York City. And that distance between what some intend and what others hear is a bridge that is too far. And it is why I have not used the phrase, and it is why I discourage its use. And my focus is on building a movement for justice and equality. And as it pertains to Israel and Palestine, I think often of the words of Noy Katzman, who lost their brother in the horrific war crime of October 7th. And Noy said, we must believe in all life, Israeli and Palestinian, Jewish and Arab, that it is equally precious. And that is the vision that I hope to fulfill.
And if a...
What a hogwash answer. When I heard that, I was outraged. I was outraged. I will not use it, and I discourage others to use it. Not that I don't mean it. I just don't want to use it right now because I'm on the verge of being elected mayor of New York City at that time. Let's go back to Al, line 5. Al, when you hear all that, thank you for your patience. I wanted to play that because we hadn't heard that in a while. And I get even more angry when I hear it because, boy, did he dance around the answer. He never denounced it. And then he brought up the example. I'm actually even more offended now that I heard it because he brought up October 7th and the guy who died on October 7th who said all lives are precious. And he brought up all sides on October 7th. I'm sorry, I missed the all sidesism. I didn't realize we had to sympathize with Hamas on October 7th. But go ahead, Al.
Yeah, no, I agree so much. Like even the protests the other night at the demonstration at Gracie Mansion, I'm sure, even though 400 was a decent crowd, I'm sure a lot of good New Yorkers more would have went. But so many are fearful counter, the types of, counter,
counter demonstrators, right?
Yeah,
right.
like the what do you call? I forgot the name of the
Antifa.
The yes, the Antifa types. People get scared, and that's why they didn't show up. And it's a shame because when this anti-Semitism starts to spread, look what's going on in Park Slope. Even the Park Slope, they have the grocery store.
Yeah, the boycott.
Where it's and now they're not selling Jewish products. I heard Alan Dershowitz touch on that the other day. I read it in the Post today. And what's so unfortunate is when this thing of theirs started in Park Slope many decades ago, the people who were the ones who started were mostly Jewish, and now this is not right.
It's so not right. And I agree with you, Al, that some people are afraid to speak out. And then yet you have on the other end this defiance of the mayor of the biggest city with the Jewish population outside of Israel, who says, my views are clear. I am not going because I do not believe in the establishment of Israel. And yet I'm not anti-Semitic, but keep on protesting outside those synagogues. And even if you say death to Israel and try to bust through the door, that's First Amendment. I mean, to me, this is so dangerous. And now we have this rise of anti-Semitism, and we have a leader who seems to refuse to condemn it and who blatantly is throwing Israel under the bus. And he's unabashed. I mean, he's like defiant. You could even watch his face. He seemed very defiant tonight. Like, I've made my views clear. Sorry, I'm not going. See ya, Israel. Better luck. I mean, that's a very dangerous place to be. Al, thank you very much. And thank you for sticking with us. 1-800-848-9222. And everybody, we will continue your calls on the Rita Cosby Show when we come back after the break.